This is the reason why you shouldn't give up.
Why are you at 25 so motivated to do the right thing with your money and think about your future?
My parents struggled to make ends meet and provide for us. There's 3 kids under the roof.
At 25 years old, what does a 25-year-old do with $215,000? I'm curious, you know?
The reason why I was able to get to that point is because I didn't give up. I was very focused on my goals and I was working towards them.
Now, before we hop into today's show, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's jump into the video.
Astrid, you're 25 years old, making $250,000 or more a year. What do you project yourself making this year in 2023? All things.
All things, so multiple streams of income. So I think this year I will likely hit, so I am actually working on a current project where hopefully I'll be able to sell it for more money. But if that comes to fruition, I'm thinking around 280, I would say, and hopefully hit 300K.
Okay.
Is my goal.
300K.
That is something I definitely put on my manifestation board for this year, is that I want to hit 300K, both for a salary rise for income and also for my net worth. I want to cross the 300K line. So
300K line for at 25.
Yeah, so those are my current goals that I've set for myself currently.
Cool, great. And then let's say, I'm curious, worst case scenario, what do you know you'll make for sure this year?
I would say around 215.
Ooh! $215,000 for sure.
Yeah.
All right. And that's in 2023. And then if you sell this other project and other things come through, you're looking at about another $80,000 to $85,000 of income.
And I included with that, so again, I'm in a sales role, so it's obviously fluctuates based on my commissions.
Yeah.
So that 215 is based on what I'm tracking currently, but if deals come through, then my commissions will be higher. So yeah, so part of it's not only that project I'm working on, but my commissions pay.
At 25 years old, what does a 25-year-old do with $215,000? I'm curious, you know what I'm saying? Because that's you bringing in gross. If you're doing 215, you're averaging at least $18,000 to $20,000 to $22,000 gross a month, seeing about 12 to about maybe 15, maybe in between 10 and 15, depending on how you're claiming net. But if you hit 280 to 300, you're seeing about 25 grand gross and about 15.
Yes,
right?
And it's crazy, again, at my age to see that money. I'm lucky I don't have any major responsibilities. I don't have kids. I don't have a dog yet.
Come on now.
But
not married yet. You are dating.
I am dating.
I saw your boyfriend, brother. Man, you clean, bro. You clean, bro. Okay.
I like to hear that. But so a little bit about how I budget my money. I'm very focused on, again, achieving my goals. And with me, I do pay myself kind of first budgeting. Okay. So every time I get my paycheck, and again, it varies because I have my base pay and then I have my commission. So my commissions checks come monthly. Okay. But again, that fluctuates based on how much I sell.
Yeah.
So with my base pay, every time I get a biweekly paycheck, I put away around $3,000. So for the total of my base pay, I save around $6,000 a month. So that's my goal.
$6K a month.
Yeah, so that's currently my goal. And so far I've been successful. It's a little hard at times because you can get carried away with shopping or with bills or traveling if you put money away towards vacation.
But I want to pause right there though. Come on, Ashley. You're 25 and you're saving $6,000 a month. Yes. Right? And there are 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds right now watching. They're making pretty decent money, and they're not even saving $200 a month. So I want to give you credit right there.
Thank you.
I just want to give you credit. Because people don't like the word budget, but you out here budgeting. All right, keep going. So
that's off my base pay. And then what I like about being in sales, again, you have commissions on top of that, but I treat my base pay as if I wasn't going to make any commission. So I just budget off of that money and live off that money, and then I treat commissions as just bonus. So to me, I think that has really changed my mindset and allowed me to save even more, because once that extra money comes in, again, I'm focused on, okay, how can I maximize my savings? And then, of course, I think it's good to have balance. So I definitely put aside money to enjoy enjoy life, to put either whether it's new clothes, new travel, whatever I want to invest my money in, that's in terms of experiences, I do allow myself that ability. I'm 25, you know, you're young, you're young, I'm young in that sense, and I want to enjoy that. But again, I do have these goals, and I make sure, okay, let me put away the money that will help me achieve those goals, so that I don't have to worry about it after. And that is what personally works for me.
Now, what motivates you? It's like, why? Like, why are you saving as much money as you are? Like, what is a goal down the road? You know, are you saving to invest? Are you saving to buy a house? Are you saving to, why are you at 25 so motivated to do the right thing with your money and think about your future rather than you young, beautiful, successful, got a good man, y'all travel the world. You could be balling right now, but why save?
So there's two parts to that. One, in how I save. So I have multiple goals. I do have a house fund, so I keep, I put savings towards a high yield savings account, particularly for a house fund.
Okay.
And I invest around a third of my money, or even up to like 50% of my money, in the stock market into low cost index funds is what I focus on.
Okay.
And then part of it, I have an emergency fund, so that's already stocked up. But I do divvy my money in certain ways that are going to help me pursue certain goals I have. So again, by 30, my goal is to buy a house. If I can buy a house sooner, the market's a little crazy right now, but I do have that goal, and I have that money available. But I also want to, again, be able to be financially independent. And I am financially independent, but financially free. And I think that's the key, is that I want to be eventually work optional. I actually like to work to some extent, where I like working towards something. But if I can, like, if I were to lose my job, I want to be okay with, well, I don't need that job to survive. Like, that's the ultimate goal. And again, think about how I grew up. I grew up in a low income Latino household in LA, and just seeing, just being in that environment where my parents struggled to make ends meet and provide for us. There's 3 kids under the roof, and they were like, at my age, my mom already had 3 kids, and it's just crazy to think about if I were in that situation. And I just want to be able to provide a life for myself and my future family, and also for my parents. They're very young, and unfortunately, they don't really have a retirement. So I know later on in life, not that they will, force anything upon me, but I want to be able to take care of them. And same, I have an older sister who's disabled, and she as well, if I can be able to provide for her and be able to maybe, set up a house in the back for her to live in and to, have her independence, that would be something that would be super valuable to me.
So recently I completed my full estate plan, and I'll be real with you, while it was an emotional journey, I can now sleep better knowing my family and loved ones will be taken care of. But did you know that according to a recent study, 60% of African American adults have life insurance, yet many of those policies may not provide enough coverage to fully protect families in the event of unexpected death? The gap in coverage is a significant concern for Black communities, as it can lead to financial hardship and jeopardize generational wealth building. And we definitely can't afford that within our particular community. Now, more than ever, it's crucial for African Americans to prioritize life insurance and estate planning. By doing so, you can ensure that your loved ones are well taken care of in the event of your passing, covering funeral and burial costs, paying off debts and mortgages, and providing income to help them build true and lasting wealth. So I am asking you, please do not leave your family's financial security to chance. I want you to get life insurance today with my friends over at Ethos by visiting AnthonyONeal.com/life insurance for a free quote, or by clicking the link in today's show notes. I want you to protect your family's future and give yourself a peace of mind knowing that you have life insurance today. Hey, let's get back to today's show. Hey, I just want to commend you. 25 years old. You're setting aside on average about $6,000 a month. Some month it may go lower depending on how you spend. But right now your goal is $6K, and you're saving for 3 main reasons, what I heard. Wealth, which is a house. 2, emergencies. You gotta have an emergency fund. Then 3, investment. It's investing. So you're investing into the money. And I find this so interesting because you and I grew up in something very similar. You know, we grew up in right around the same area. You're in LA, I'm in Oceanside, California. And I know all about, you know, living in LA with especially like 3 other siblings and a family in one house. Similar story to mine. I had 2 other siblings, right? And we're in a bedroom of 3, a 3-bedroom, about 1,200 square feet. My grandmother has 1 bedroom because she was elderly. Me, my sister, my brother had to share 1 room. And then my mom and dad had the other room.
Yeah, mine, I actually lived on a property where it was 2 homes around 800 square feet. And it was one was my grandparents, and then the front house was us. And my parents, there's 2 bedrooms, and me and my sister shared, and my brother had another, and my parents had to sleep in the living room. So very, very similar, where it's like you just have to kind of figure it out. And I am so grateful to my parents for making those sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I'm just fortunate that they, even though they didn't know what the next step was, they just wanted to give us the best and find some way for us to, you know, have a better life. And for us, that was actually through education.
Yeah.
So a little bit about my story was, I remember when my mom had me, and she wanted to work, and because I was little, and she also wanted to be able to take care of me as well. So she was able to find a job at a daycare, a private daycare where I could go for free. And she was actually a cleaner at the time. So she was scrubbing toilets and making sure everything was clean there. And again, this was so that she could, you know, have an income, but also have somewhere where I can be taken care of, and she was close. The owner of that daycare happened to be a very wealthy woman, so it was a private daycare, and all her kids and her grandkids went to schools like Stanford, Oxford, like really great elite schools. And she told my mom, she said, hey, part of the reason why they were able to go to these schools was that they had a really good elementary school and primary school education. So she, in LA, there's a lot of private schools. And she told my mom, like, hey, my grandkids went to this particular private school. Your daughter looks very smart. You should apply there. And so my mom was like, okay, if this woman, like, I trust her advice, she's very successful. If she thinks my daughter can go there, because you had to apply. At the time, like, you had to take an IQ test. You had to make sure that you were fit for the school. And so I applied, and I actually got in. And that just started a whole, like, I guess, school career of me being exposed to just a different world. So I came from living in in an environment where it was low income, a different world from when I was attending school, and you saw what I thought was the elite, where you had CEOs' kids, celebrities' kids. It's LA, so a lot of celebrities' kids going to these schools. Again, politicians' children, where they had a lot of money and they had access to a lot of resources that most people like me didn't have. And being in these 2 worlds, I just got exposed to so much, and it enabled me to get to where I am today, because from there, I was able to get access to the best college counselors, and I was able to end up going to Princeton. Like,
Princeton?
Yeah, I'll never forget my college counselor. When I was applying to colleges, he gave me advice. He said, hey, based on your records, like, you did really well, I think you should apply to Princeton. And I told him, I said, Princeton? I'm like, you're trying to make sure I don't go to college. I'm like, I'm not getting in there. Like, are you serious? But he told me, he said, these schools, an Ivy League like Princeton, they're looking for people like you to attend them. They want smart, young women of color in your position, low income especially, to apply, because unfortunately, he said, those people like me do not apply to those schools. They don't know how to. And so I got very lucky in that sense that I had that encouragement and somebody to actually show me the way to do so. So now where I am today with my message is, I always feel people just don't know what they don't know. And so it's not like we don't want to do better for ourselves. I found a lot of people, especially in the Latino community and other, minorities, they want to do better for themselves. They just don't know where to start. And so for me, I'm very much focused on how do I provide people with access to that information and those resources to do so, because that's what I was given the privilege of, and I want to share the same. So
that's so, and it's so funny. We grew up in the same type of situation. But my story is on the opposite. no one was telling me to do certain things and exposing me to those kind of things.
Yeah.
Everyone told me the same thing. Hey, just get yourself into school.
Yeah.
Graduate, get you a job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Get your credit score up to a 730. Work 40 years on that job so you can get 40% of your paycheck and just live about 40% of your life.
Well, it's so funny you say the credit score. No one. So when I grew up, my parents were like, because they had accumulated a lot of debt. So my parents, again, they always tried to do better. They went to school, but like, for instance, my mom, they still have student loan debt. They never graduated, and they're 20 years later still have student loan.
Still paying on student loans?
Yeah, and because again, they've had to focus on providing for us, so that's gone to the back burner. So my mom told me, don't have debt, but don't pull out credit cards. She's like, credit cards are bad. You're gonna get into debt. Both my parents said that. And it's funny because when I had a job offer right out of college, and I was gonna work in New York City, and I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna get an apartment in New York City. This is gonna be great. And I'm gonna be able to afford it. So I remember looking for an apartment with my roommate at the time, and I wasn't getting accepted because I didn't have any savings and I didn't have a credit score. And so even though I had this job offer saying, hey, I'm going to be able to afford it, they were like, no, this is not enough. And I remember they said, you need to have what's called a guarantor. So someone who makes 80 times the rent. So instead of, I had to make 40 times the rent, but someone who makes 80 times the rent, it like levels up. Maybe it might change now. And I was freaking out because I'm like, I'm at this point gonna make more than my parents combined. So there's nobody, who's going to be able to co-sign this. Right. And fortunately, I did have a family member, my Thea. She, bless her heart. She was able to sign off for me because she had no kids. She was very successful in her career. But imagine if I didn't have her, who would I have gone to? I wouldn't have been able to afford an apartment and really kickstart my career. And that just opened my eyes of how important it is to get your finances together, to, do the things that unfortunately you're just not taught in school. Like you're not taught about credit scores. You're not taught how to do taxes. I get scared every time I do taxes and all these things. And now that's why I'm very focused on making sure that my finances are in order. That's good.
That's good. And it's so true. Everyone asks me, because, I know that feeling. You know what I'm saying? I remember everyone used to always ask me that because, I don't do debt, you know? And so everyone's like, well, how do I get an apartment? Well, you're going to need some money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't apply to the apartment complex and you have no savings and you have no credit score. And you have, you may have the income, but they don't know, they don't see what you're able to do with money.
I had no history,
Exactly.
I had no history of that.
So I literally called around to apartment complexes. This video went viral on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah. And I may post it again. Michelle, let's post that again for people to see in the future. But I literally called these apartment complexes and said, hey, listen, I don't have a credit score, but I got 6 months of reserves. And I make X amount of dollars. Are you all cool with that? They was like, yeah, you had to put down an extra deposit.
Yeah, okay. Before I think it was some places do 2 months rent, and I'm like...
They do. They was like, yeah, we'll do that. We prefer you to have a credit score. I said, okay, so you prefer for me to be in debt. They was like, well, since you say it like that. But, it's like, for me, I'm like, hey, I totally understand. I think you either need a good credit score or you need no credit score with money. Are you ready to transform your career in 2023? I want you to consider Bethel School of Technology, the world's only Christian online tech bootcamp. With African Americans representing just 7.9% of the tech workforce in the US, it's time to bridge that gap and create more opportunities for everyone in this booming industry. Bethel Tech is committed, and I mean this, they're committed to providing accessible, lucrative, and fulfilling tech careers for all individuals. In their comprehensive 9-month program, you'll master essential skills to kickstart your technology career today. The earning potential is crazy impressive. Indeed reports that software developers in the US earn, on average, about $103,000 per year. What? Choose from programs like cybersecurity and UI/UX design and ignite your tech career with passion and with purpose. Forget about accumulating and racking up debt and invest just 9 months to revolutionize the next 9 years of your professional life. Embrace your potential with Bethel Tech and achieve your career aspirations today. Hey, visit anthonyoneal.com/Bethel or click the link in today's show notes to register and take the first step towards a bright future in technology. Hey, talking about a bright future, let's get back to today's show.
Yeah, and I think, again, that was so eye-opening for me because I have a younger brother who's 4 years younger, and I told him as soon as that experience happened, I'm like, hey, you need to open your own credit card. You need to start building your credit. Again, you get a low amount, but like $500, maybe $1,000. But again, you want to have that in place so that when he needs to, because he's currently living in New York too, attending school.
For real? What school is he going to?
He's going to NYU.
NYU?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he and again, luckily we're able to afford it because him and I, like you said, my parents were not a believer in debt, and fortunately, we went to schools where they paid for everything. So I was on full scholarship. Or else, if I had to take out loans, it probably would have been a different story. So I understand. Like again, I sympathize with people where I'm not necessarily like a believer in you have to get a college degree because the debt right now versus the job you get, it's not worth it.
It's not.
But I was fortunate enough where, again, I didn't have to pay for school.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, so I told him, I said, you need to, set up a credit card. And now what I love, too, is that I can pass off that information to him. And he's already saved, I honestly think, like $20K at his age.
How old is he now?
I think, how old is he? 21. So he's 21, just turned 21. So to not even be graduated from college and already at that savings level, I'm like, and that's the whole purpose of, again, passing on information and breaking generational curses, that you want to give that information to your future generations so that they do better for themselves. And unfortunately, my parents, there's certain information they didn't know at the time, but they knew, okay, growing up, our education was going to provide that for us, and they just wanted the best. And I'm super grateful for that.
So Princeton, 100% debt-free, huh?
Yeah, so I was very lucky where I didn't have to pay, or if I did have somewhat of a loan, I could pay out throughout the year. So very easy, very minimal.
Okay.
And I think people don't realize that these big schools do, like Ivy Leagues, they do, again, they look for very talented people, low-income people, and they're willing to pay for you to go.
Yes.
But again, I say that, and it's hard to, you have to apply as well, but it's hard to get in. So it's like, it's both. But I was telling Michelle, actually, that my college counselor told me at the time, he said, they're going to love you because as a Latina, you took Calc BC. The fact that you took Calc BC in high school.
Let me write it down. Spell that for me.
Oh, calculus, I mean.
Oh, calculus. Okay,
yeah.
I was about to say Calc BC.
No, calculus BC.
Did you know what Calc BC was? Oh, yeah, because your daughter's in it. Yeah.
Calculus BC, and he said, the fact that you took Calculus BC as a young woman of color in high school, they're going, that is a rarity. And to me, I thought that was a bit sad to hear because,
hands down,
that shouldn't be something that's abnormal. And again, I know there's a lot of talented people of color, people like me, where super smart. And fortunately, I saw that at Princeton, fellow engineers and other people, students of color, where I was surrounded by other smart people. But like you mentioned, unfortunately, those people in those communities don't know to apply. They don't know where to, what courses to take to get into these schools. Yeah. And already they're limited by that without having that knowledge.
And it's so important, and I'm glad you said calculus, because in my book, Debt Free Degree, that I wrote while I was with Ramsey Press and Ramsey Solutions, I talk about, hey, here are, I think everyone in our shoes, especially in the minority space, if you're watching us, Astrid's story, I hope it inspires you, right? Because what I'm hearing you say is, I was exposed to people and I followed the strategy that they put before me and my mom. They said, hey, your daughter should go here. You went there. Clearly, to get into Princeton, you played your part and you took the right classes and you focused on those classes, right? And then let's talk about it. Then you go to Princeton. You get to Princeton by listening to your mentor, telling you to go to Princeton to apply. And this is something that I think a lot of minorities are kind of ashamed of. It's like, hey, we don't want to use our race to our benefit. I'm sending my son in. Hey, they take care of black people over there? Go. They gonna give you a scholarship? Go. I don't have to pay for it?
Yeah.
Go. Because the less money I have to spend, that's more money I can invest into you and your future. So while you're in school, get that education. Go to Princeton and you get that education for free. If it's not Princeton, if it's your local state college there, go. Get the education for free. But what I see that you're doing, which is why you're successful today, everything that you focus on, you focus.
Exactly.
And you just kill.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And a key thing that I like that you touched on, aside from pursuing, being focused, it's more so finding mentors. I think that's what's really helped me, even in my career right now, working in tech sales. Again, as a young woman of color working in this industry, you don't see very many people like me, unfortunately. And so what I've been able to do is surround myself with mentors who have given me guidance and really allowed me to grow in my career so quickly. I've personally never job hopped. I've been at the same company for the past 4 years since I've gone out of college. And with that, I've been able to increase my pay by over, I believe, 60%. And that's all due to the mentorships that I have in place, and particularly from women, actually. So the past 2 promotions that I've gotten, it's because my female coworkers have told me, hey, this is they've been transparent about their pay. They said, this is what I've done previously, or this is how my promotion went. You've done a really good job. You should ask for a promotion, and this is how you should go about asking for it. So they literally laid out exactly the strategy. They said, this is what you need to say, this is what you need to do. So for anyone listening out there, something to say is when you ask for a raise, make sure to write down a list of your accomplishments.
Hold on, baby, let me write this down. All right, so
when you ask for a raise, the key steps I have is, 1, write down a list of your accomplishments. You want to make sure you keep throughout the year everything positive that you've done that has positively affected your team.
Okay.
So whether that's, in my case, I've closed certain size deals, whether that's I've hit certain numbers, whatever it is, write that down, because you're going to leverage that when you ask for a raise. Another key piece of advice is focus on building a great relationship with your manager. I think a lot of people don't realize that your manager has a lot of control over how well your work-life balance feels, actually. So my manager, luckily he doesn't micromanage, but I make sure to check in with him bi-weekly, set up cadence calls is what they're called, and to talk with them, here's my progress, here's what I've done, and just, again, be friends with them and establish rapport, because your manager wants to keep you happy, because if you're happy and doing well, then they look good for their manager. And people don't realize that your promotions are based off, if your manager thinks, they're going to advocate for you. And so that's something where that's really helped me, get promoted quickly. And the last thing I would say is start these conversations early. So if you want to get promoted by the end of the year, start in the beginning of the year. Again, have the discussion with your manager and say, hey, I'm looking to get promoted. What do you need to see from me in order to do so? So that already puts the onus on them, so to speak, to tell you exactly what they need to see in order, tangible goals for you to get that promotion. Because if you hit all those goals, then what is the reason that they can't give it to you? That they're literally letting you know what is needed to be done. So that is what worked for me, and hopefully can work for someone else.
No, it will work.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you start the conversation earlier, what I tell people all the time, don't ask your boss for a raise.
Yeah.
Don't say, hey, man, I want a raise. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I want this. No. Ask them like, hey, like what you just said, I'm looking for a promotion. How else can I best serve the company?
Yeah,
What are the things that I can do that will keep me in the forefront of a position to better serve? Now, what I hear as a boss, some of the other people hear is like, hey, you want to help us grow and impact more and sell more and grow the business. And it's not self. Now, as a boss, I know, okay, they want to raise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then now I know it's like, okay, they want to raise and they're willing to work for the raise.
Yeah.
And in this generation, especially your generation, right, y'all just want the money. And y'all don't really want to help the company build. It's like, okay, wait, what am I getting in return? So I like how you said, you got to start the conversation earlier, because then that goes down to your accomplishment. So if they say, hey, you got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, throughout the year, you're jotting down everything that you accomplished.
And it gives you the opportunity during that conversation to say, well, you don't say that's a little crazy, but you can readjust and say, how about this? And so you already you have some negotiating power there and can find something reasonable, versus if you just ask at the end of the year and they're like, well, we need to see this. And you're like, well, you never told me that because you never initiated that conversation.
You never told them you want more responsibility.
And I always tell the best piece of career advice I ever gotten is you don't get the opportunities that you don't ask for. So it's super important to advocate for yourself and to go after what your goals are. And I have a little bit of a long story, but I think a very important one is, I'll never forget, last year I actually switched teams. So I had gone to, internally, I got to move teams because my company was reorging. And so with that, I had a new manager.
Okay.
And I had come off a great year. I had done really well. But now with this new team, it was a new manager. I was selling a new product in a new territory. And so with my new manager, I was like, well, my company was giving out raises. I was like, let me ask for a raise. And the manager, he basically said no. He was like, we'll talk about that later. And to his, defense, like, he didn't know how I worked. I listed out my accomplishments, but again, he just didn't know me well.
Yeah.
And at the time, again, I had a new product, and I was worried. I was like, if I continue on with this, I am not going to be successful. So that was my chance. I was like, I need to leave. I need to find a new job because I'm miserable here. Everyone was telling me, if you stay here with what you're given, you're not going to sell much, unfortunately. So that's why I tell people, it's like, if you need to move jobs, definitely. So anyways, I go and I apply to jobs, and I hear back pretty quickly. And during the job interviews, by the way, if you're applying to jobs, do not be afraid to ask the recruiter what types of questions they ask and how to best prepare.
Absolutely.
Because one recruiter literally told me the exact questions that the interviewers were going to ask. He said, the interviewer tomorrow is going to ask you these 3 questions. So prepare for those. And sure enough, exactly those 3, I was well prepared. So I was killing every interview. I did a great job to the point where before the final round, the recruiter told me, he said, we're likely going to extend you an offer, and the offer is going to be this. So he said, at the time I was making $95K base, 171 OT. So I could have made up to 171K. This offer was going to be 120K base and 200K OT. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be able to make 200,000 in a year. Like, this is amazing. So I was so excited. But fast forward to that interview, and all of a sudden, I just felt something was off, and I didn't get it. And I was like, I didn't do horribly in the interview, but I didn't get the offer. So I was in a position now where I was unhappy with my job. I wasn't going to sell enough. I didn't get my raise, and I was just miserable. 2 weeks after I got denied for that job, someone reached out to me internally in my company, and she said, hey, I am taking over these accounts you had last year. Can you tell me a little bit about them? And I said, these accounts, like, whose team are you on? Like, these were my accounts. Like, how did you, why are you now the seller? And she said, this guy, Mark, let's just say, Mark is my boss. And I said, Mark, that was the very first manager who hired me. Like, I love Mark. I was like, is he hiring again? And so she's like, yeah, you should talk to him. So I talked to Mark, my very first manager, and he said, Astrid, it's so great to see the growth that you've had over the past few years. I've watched from afar because we're in the same business. I would love to have you on my team. Wow. And so I was able 2 weeks later to make the change to a manager that really saw the potential in me and loved me. And then I decided, again, staying focused to the goals. Again, I'm getting to the point of the story.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I already asked for a raise, but I really want that raise. Let me try again now that I have my new manager, or Mark now as my manager. So I asked Mark, I said, hey, I would really like, and I threw a crazy number. I said, I would love a 15% raise, and these are the reasons why. And Mark told me, he said, a raise, I already put you down for a promotion. And that promotion came with a 27% increase. God. And so that promotion ended up being, my base pay went up to $144,000.
Good God.
And then my OT went up to $220,000.
Good God.
So it all worked out and thank you, Lord, where I
And OT is
on target earnings. So basically, if I hit my quota, then I will make that for the year. I can make more than that, but basically, I'll make $220,000 for the year if I hit all my numbers.
I think everyone's saying OT was like overtime.
No, OT, on target earnings.
On target earnings.
So basically,
so you got a guaranteed of 147.
It was 144.
144. So you're gonna make 144 for the year guaranteed.
Guaranteed, and then on top of that, I can make up to 220,000, and it was or more if I like killed it.
Yeah.
And again, I was so grateful, and again, God, thank you so much. But I realized the reason why I was able to get to that point is because I didn't give up. I was very focused on my goals, and I was working towards them. And so for anyone out there, I really think it's important, like, keep pursuing what you want, write it out, manifest it, whatever you want to call it, speak it into existence, because you never know what's going to happen. And again, I didn't get that offer from that other job, but the fact that I knew what it was going to be, and then that opportunity went away, and this one came up. And what's even crazier is that with all the tech layoffs coming up, that company actually just announced a pretty big layoff, and that possibly could have been me. So I'm very grateful to be where I am today, and it all worked out. But I think it worked out because I was just actively pursuing those goals. And,
I think another thing that it worked out for you was, you probably didn't even know this, as a Christian, right? I hear you steward your relationships well. So it's like you treat people with kindness. Like you said, hey, focus on building a great relationship with your manager. Yeah. So that manager was your first manager, and you built a relationship with him. Yeah, I
cultivated that,
Yeah, right? And so you stewarded well, and then because now you transitioned to another side of the company, now your manager is still watching you from afar. Say, yo, go ahead, Astrid, go ahead, girl, go ahead. Hello? Hey, I'm looking to transition. Girl, I would love to have you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's I tell everyone, man, it's like, how you leave a company or like in your case, a manager or a team is very, very important. Very, very important. Everyone knows that I used to work with Dave Ramsey, and that transition was, I believe, one of the smoothest transitions from a personality position, right? He and I embraced each other and hugged each other on our one of our last conversations because we both went to see each other win. And I didn't leave throwing up a fight or a fist, and he didn't throw me out the building and lock the doors, and it's like, because of that, transitioning is always important. I believe how you transition from one impacts how you transition to your next season.
Oh, and it's so true. And again, I actually spoke with someone recently, and he's much older, much more experienced. But he basically told me, I asked him about his career journey, and he said he got to where he was today because he actually reached out to an old manager and said, hey, I would love to come work for you and work back. And that manager said, give me a day, just hold off. And that night he wrote up a job posting just for him. And so when I heard that, and giving him what, offering what he wanted. And I want to get to that point where I develop those relationships so closely that a company or a manager wants to hire me back because they know my work ethic and they know I will contribute to a team and do a good job. And like you said, you don't want to burn bridges, and you want to keep keep networking. I always tell people, like, don't force networking, but at the same time, ask people about, their life, and you'd be surprised how much people love to talk about themselves. Like when I'm in sales calls, I literally start off my calls asking them, how was your weekend? How are you doing? And we can spend 15 minutes talking about that, and all of a sudden I develop instant rapport with my clients, and it just makes the conversations run much more smoothly, and then ends up hopefully leading to a sale.
And I want to encourage you all to watch Astrid's. She has her own podcast and her own show as well, teaching ladies literally how to be successful in their career spaces. She is in the tech industry, and she is just winning and really helping. And I'm going to say it because we both are doing it. We want to help minority people. And specifically, she wants to help minority ladies really win in their career space, whether that's tech, any type of level of careers. The advice she gave us today, you can apply that anywhere, right? And a lot of her content, when I reached out to her to come on the show, I was like, yo, I like your content. And I've never had an Latina on my show, and I was like, yo, I got to get me a Latina sister in here. You know, hey, boyfriend, I asked her, does she call you Papi? I was trying to see. She said, there's no comment. I was like, hey, boy, you know. But I wanted to have a different culture, a different culture of a woman or a man come on the show and just share their success. I mean, and I hope, and this is why I want y'all to watch her show and get into her content, because I really do hope that you learn that no matter where you start, if you can just steward where you started and maximize that season, your next season is going to be brighter and better. From low income to where her income is making both of her parents combined don't make more money than her, right? To now to Princeton, from graduating Princeton 100% debt free, to now saving $6K a month. How much money do you have saved?
Currently, I'm saved or invested.
All together, so saved and
Altogether,
invested.
my net worth right now is around $250K. So I'm looking to, again, cross the $300K threshold. But again, my goal is to hopefully hit the $1 million mark by, I would say, 31. And then, yeah, see, again, work optional is the ultimate goal for me. Being able to choose how I spend my time is what I want.
25 years old, net worth is at $250,000. Net worth. Let me say it one more time. If she stopped working today, she can cash in $250,000 and live at least 2 years off of that easy. Technically, she can go longer than that. She'll just have to cut out
super
certain
frugal.
things. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But with her lifestyle today, she can live for 2 years and not have to change nothing in her lifestyle, you know? And so I want to ask you this question. What's your net worth? They say by 2054, people of color will have a negative net worth. By 2054. That's coming right around. That's within the next 20, 21 years.
And it's so funny because with student loan, racking up student loan debt, the buy now, pay laters, I feel like it's causing, there's just so many things, temptations where, you know, to rack up debt. And again, I want to be able to provide I want to provide others with information of like, okay, this is when you have a good income, how do you navigate your personal finances with that? And how do you be responsible with that money? So that's my ultimate goal.
You know, I got to ask you this question. Then we're going to leave. No, I'm going to ask you two more questions. I got about, I'll go 5 more minutes.
No,
I'm sorry, y'all. We over time, but it's all good. Net worth of $250,000. You make $200,000. You make $215 minimum this year. 25 years old. I'm thinking you driving like a Mercedes C-Class. Am I right? Mercedes C-Class? Why are you looking like that?
No, so it's actually funny. I recently moved during the pandemic to Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And I actually, because I came from New York, and New York, you don't need a car. So I currently don't have a car.
You don't have a car in Atlanta?
No, and I know people think, well, that's a little crazy. And not that I don't. I eventually will get a car.
Okay.
But for me, I luckily live in an area where, you know, everything's pretty walkable. But I also don't want to assume that payment right away. I just feel like car insurance in the city is crazy. And if I don't need it, why have it? Again, when I do, I will get a car. But I think, again, what are my priorities? For me, I mean, I think I'm a great driver, but what if that car in Atlanta too, it might get messed up? For me, I wouldn't spend my money on a Mercedes necessarily or right away. Because that just doesn't fit my lifestyle. I don't see the need for it. I want something more that functions and, I mean, looks nice, but also that is not going to cost me an arm and a leg. So for me, my priorities are not necessarily a car.
Astrid, you have a roommate, you don't have a car, you're making $215,000 a year, you're saving about $6,000 a month, your net worth is right at $250,000, you got a great job. I
don't have a car.
You don't have a car. You know what I'm saying? You're unique.
And again, I'm not for anyone out there.
Absolutely.
You should have, if you need a car, have a car.
Yeah.
But again, I think for me, I look at my situation. I say, okay, what matters to me, and what matters honestly is my time, my experience. I don't mind spending money on travel and experiences. Like really, even this year, I told myself, I'm like, if it's, because I felt like I missed out a lot during the pandemic because you couldn't travel. And I'm like, I want to make up for that time. If any of my friends say, hey, let's go to Portugal, in the next 2 months, I want to go. I want to be able to, I will put money towards that because I never regret traveling somewhere. Like even to this day, I went to Italy last year. And every time I open up a bottle of wine, like a Chianti Classico, I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of, when I went to the winery.
Yeah.
And I never regret that. So experiences, spending money on my family, spending money. Of course, I like to buy nice things, but I'm not, for instance, a purse person. So I don't have fancy purses. It's not my thing. All power to you if it is.
Yeah.
But I like to make sure that I have a good balance. So even when I budget, so I have my savings, but then that leftover, having that savings automatically put away allows a leftover budget where I can splurge on myself.
So good.
So it's just all about balance, figuring out, yes, thinking about the future, but also living in the moment.
I like that. Pretty much what I hear you saying is, what do I value? What matters to me? And I'm going to put my money towards that.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, I may not have purses, but I'll drop 10 grand, 15 grand on a vacation, And I think that that's fine. If you're the person that wants to drop 10, 15 grand on purses and only do a $5,000 vacation, that's fine. I'm a car guy. I'll drop 6 figures on a car all day. Car and home is where I spend the majority of my money. I don't really do a whole lot of name brand stuff, I mean, I like name brand stuff, but I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like my clothes, I got a polo shirt. Who wearing polo these days sometimes, So it's like, I think we all got to look at what is it that we value, and then don't be ashamed to put money into that, you guys. Really don't. But Astrid, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your journey and giving us some powerful tips on really how to be a successful woman, and even deeper than that, how to be a successful minority woman.
Thank you so much.
I just believe that you helped some people today, and this has been an amazing conversation. We're going to drop all of Astrid's information in today's show notes, how you can subscribe to her show, go learn more, what she's doing, how to get into sales. Because I'm telling you, man, these ladies are winning. I mean, we've been interviewing some ladies in this who are taking over in sales. And like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it's still a man dominating space, but y'all ladies are coming up.
And it's awesome to see again when I'm on calls and I see other females or women in these calls, I get excited, and again also other people of color. I'm like, yes, because again it is a male dominated field, and I just love being a new voice in that and showing up, because I use that to my advantage. I'm like, I leverage what makes me, and I think it works really well. So.
Man, I love it. Well, thank you
so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next show. Peace out.